Hello, welcome to Math with Mr. The Rescue, to the rescue. Our lesson will focus on solving for x and explaining our reasoning. In this problem, we have two parallel lines crossed by a transversal, and then we have this angle, which is 17x minus 4. This information is given to us, and then this angle here, and the information is 12 plus 15x. So we have this angle and this angle. And now we know that these two angles are called corresponding, because remember, we are going to use the corresponding angles postulate. So by the corresponding angles postulate, by the corresponding angle postulate, that's our reasoning. These two angles are equal to each other. Therefore, we can equal 17 minus 4 equal 12 plus 15x, because those two angles are equal to each other based on the corresponding angles postulate. So let's equal 17x minus 4 equals 12 plus 15x. Okay, and now we are going to solve for x, and we are going to take one step further. After we solve for x, we are going to find the values of these angles, the degrees of those angles. But first, let's solve for x. Now we have an equation with variables on both sides. So now we are going to subtract 15x on both sides, so we can bring all the x's to this side of the equation. So minus 15x. And of course, 15x and negative 15x cancel out. 17x minus 15x, we get 2x. Minus 4 equals 12. And now we have a two-step equation. And let's add 4 on both sides. We need to bring the whole numbers to the other side of the equation. So let's add 4 on both sides. So 4 and negative 4 cancel out. So now we have 2x equals 12 plus 4 becomes 16. And now finally we have to divide both sides by 2 in order for us to solve for x. That cancels out to becomes a 1x. So x equals 16 divided by 2 is 8. So we got the value of x. And now, since we have the value of x, we are going to substitute this value, which is 8, into the x in our both angles, and then we can get the value of those angles, the degrees of those angles. Let's do that. So let's substitute this 8 into this x here at the top, and we always also going to substitute that 8 into this x here at the bottom, and now we are going to solve for these angles to find the values of those angles. So now we have 17, instead of x we put 8, so we have 17 times 8 minus 4, this is for the top angle, see what we get, and then we have 12 plus 15 times 8, okay, and see what we get, okay. Those two angles should be equal to each other, therefore we should get the same answers. So because of time, we are going to use a calculator here, but it's kind of easy. 17 times 8, and that's going to be 136. So we have 136 minus 4. And here we have 15 times 8, that becomes 120 plus 12, and see what we get. So we know that 136 minus 4 becomes 132. Let's call that a degree. And then 120 plus 12 is also 132 degrees. And now, voila, that's it. This angle is 132 degrees, and the other angle is 132 degrees. And then we know that both angles are the same because they are corresponding angles. Based on the corresponding angles postulate, those angles must be the same since those two lines are parallel and they are crossed by a transversal. Let's take a look now at another example here. And in this example here, we have, again, two parallel lines crossed by another transversal, but these angles are, take a look at the position of this angle. We have this angle here and this angle here, okay? And if you remember, these angles are called consecutive because they are next to each other. And there is another theorem by the consecutive angles theorem, okay? So by the consecutive angles theorem, these two angles, if we add those two angles, we get 180 degrees. So in this case, we are going to add those angles together. So we have x plus 67 plus x plus 127 equals 180 degrees, right? So in this case, we are going to add those angles together, and they add up to 180 degrees. Those two angles are supplementary. They add up to 180 degrees. So let's see what we get now. So now we are going to combine like terms. So let's combine x, and x plus x becomes 2x. And let's also combine 67 plus 127, and that becomes 194, and this equals to 180. Okay, let's put here all the degrees. Okay, and now we just have a two-step equations, and of course we are going to subtract 194 on both sides. Let's bring the numbers on this side of the equation. So let's subtract 194 on both sides. If we subtract 194 on both sides, 194 and negative 194 cross cancel. So we are left over with 2x equals, and negative 194 plus 180 becomes negative 14. Because negative 194 is more and negative carries down. And finally, let's divide both sides by 2 so we can solve for x. Let's divide both sides by 2 and we get x equals negative 7. Okay, we got the value of x. But again, let's take a step further and let's plug in that x into this x here in both angles, and let's find the values of those two angles. So let's substitute negative 7 here for x, and also this negative 7 is going to go into this x in the bottom here, and let's find the values of those two angles. Let's see what we get. So the top one we have, instead of x, we are going to put negative 7 plus 67. And the second one we have, instead of x, negative 7 plus 127. And of course, negative 7 plus 67 becomes 60 degrees, right? So this angle here is 60 degrees. And the other one, 127 take away 7, 120 degrees. This one is 120 degrees. And if we add 120 plus 60, we'll get 180 degrees, just like this theorem says. By the consecutive angle theorem, both angles should add up to 100 degrees. That's what we did, and we got the answer. We proved it, and we used our reasoning. Thank you all so much for watching. Now you saw the relationship between the previous video when we learned about what happens when two lines are crossed by a transversal. We learned about those theorem and the postulate, and now we were able to use those theorem and postulate in order for us to find the value of x and the angles value. Okay, here we used the corresponding angles postulate, and then we found that both of these angles are the same, 132 degrees, and in the other example, we used the consecutive angles theorem, right? This angle was 60, we found out to be 60, and the other one 120. 120 plus 60 gets us 180. Thank you all so much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best to you.